As you can tell by the title of this video, I went and saw the new Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans Christmas movie called Red One that is out in theaters now, and this is going to be my movie review on this movie. If you like these kind of videos and want to see more of them, make sure to like and subscribe, but let's get into my review for Red One. So basically this movie is about Santa Claus, or in this movie they call him Red One, gets kidnapped by a villain, and his bodyguard played by Dwayne Johnson teams up with the man played by Chris Evans, who accidentally got Santa Claus kidnapped. And their entire mission throughout this movie is to find Santa and save Christmas. So I went into this movie not expecting it to be good, and even before I've seen all the negative reviews on it, I wasn't really expecting it to be a good movie. But what I was expecting was for it to be, a fine Christmas movie that you can watch around the holidays to really raise the Christmas spirit. But this movie fails to do that too. Now, obviously, if you couldn't guess already, I really did not like this movie, so let's get into the problems of why I really just didn't like this movie at all. First of all, and this, I always have this complaint when it comes to these kind of Christmas movies, but I really don't like when they try to enhance the lore or really try to make the story of Santa Claus just different and just, bigger, and they try to make it better. And that's exactly what this movie does. This movie has a $250 million budget. That is equivalent and more than some of the Marvel movies. This is a Marvel-sized budgeted film, and it's a Christmas movie. We don't need a $250 million Christmas movie. And one of the biggest complaints that I had throughout this movie while I was just sitting there, honestly, I was wanting to sleep throughout the entire thing, but I pushed through it. But my biggest complaint is how it's futuristic. Why do we have to put Santa Claus in a North Pole that's like, it literally looked like Asgard. I don't understand why we have to insert all of these, fancy technology, gadgets, these monstrosities of buildings, and it was really disappointing because, like, whatever happened to, the fat Santa Claus that wears a recognizable red suit? I don't get that, or that has a normal-sized beard. Like, why does Hollywood think that they have to do something so spectacularly different to have an audience come to the theater to watch it? The reason people went to this theater to watch this movie, Santa Claus and Christmas. That's the reason people went to go see this movie. But they tried again to make this something more than it needs to be. This next complaint goes off of what I was just talking about, and it's the fact that I hate movies that rely on gadgets. This movie is too convenient. There are moments where they get trapped in a corner, and then, I just have this gadget that's perfect for getting us out of this certain situation. And that happened throughout the entire thing. Or the landscape of the North Pole. Like, there's a chase where Dwayne Johnson's character, Cal, I think that's his name, is running around the North Pole trying to catch this hover carrier that supposedly has Santa Claus on it, and he just is jumping and is finding all of these conveniently placed things that gets him to this area faster, and it's just so annoying because it's like, come on, why is there this just shows the level of quality that went into the script. They did the thing where you push someone into the corner and you have to find a way to get them out of that corner. But what they did was, so I have this character in the corner, but if you move them to the left, there's actually a door there, and they can just open it and leave. That's exactly what they did throughout this entire movie. There was never a moment where I was like, this is going to be really hard for them to get out of this situation. But going off of what I was just talking about, the gadget things, is that, like, Dwayne Johnson's character, Cal, he is supposed to be this person that obviously super strong, super duper strong, but they make jokes about how mortals are weaklings and they can't compete against the kind of people or person that Dwayne Johnson's character is. They make a joke about how, do I look human? Because yes, you do, but they're not supposed to be. And they really hype them up being these strong people. But then there's a moment where he couldn't open up a door and he had a gadget on his arm and pressed a button and it forced it down for him. It's like, these gadgets are the main reason why these characters are alive, and it's so so frustrating. We're gonna move past the gadgets. That's just one thing that I was just really annoyed about this entire movie, is that they got themselves into a situation and they were instantly out of it like that, and it really made no sense. Backing up my claim of why this script sucks is that Chris Evans' character is supposed to be this really like smart and talented like criminal who is really good at, stealing things, getting things for people, and is just kind of a petty thief. And the way they open up his character, the movie starts with him as a kid, and also supposedly Santa Claus is like, in this universe, Santa Claus, everyone knows that Santa Claus is real. So the fact that they open up this movie suggesting that Chris Evans' character as a kid is trying to prove that Santa Claus isn't real completely just gets derailed by the fact that, yes, Santa Claus in fact is real. Like, Santa Claus literally gets flown down to malls to be the mall Santa Claus. So they really didn't explain that well. They kind of just are like, oh yeah, everyone knows that Santa exists, and that's not this huge thing. That would be insanely huge. Back on Chris Evans' character, Jack. Obviously, his name's going to be Jack in a Christmas movie. But anyways, I don't like how they introduce his adult character, in which we're supposed to be seeing how he goes about doing his job. The way they show that he's good at thieving is literally, they open up with him in a coffee shop, and this woman leaves a coffee on this shelf, and she goes into her purse to grab her phone to take a call or something like that. And they just show him walking by grabbing the coffee. Ooh. Oh my gosh, he stole a coffee. It was just like, why was that the way you were showing that? I mean, is that to show that he's sly, like he doesn't give a shit, or like he's just like, he's this petty thief, he steals a lollipop from a baby? Like, this dude's an asshole. Like, and I know they're trying to show that, but it's just like, if they're really trying to show us how good he is at his job, then don't just give him this thing and be like, oh yeah, by the way, he was the reason that someone stole Santa Claus. Like, that doesn't do anything for me, and especially the coffee thing, that was just lame. But also, I think the worst thing about this Christmas movie is that it just doesn't have that Christmas glow. It doesn't have that oomph that you want out of a Christmas movie. The three things that you need for a good Christmas movie is snow, Christmas lights, and Christmas music. You don't even need Santa Claus to make a good Christmas movie. And the CGI and cinematography is so dull. It just, like, the North Pole is supposed to be this grand thing, like I said, looks like Asgard, and it's so boring. There's lights, but there isn't like Christmas lights. There's snow, but it's not like, this Christmas snow. It's just there. It's just so formulaic, so boring, so cheesy, and really was just a horrible viewing experience. Now, going into some interesting parts about this movie that were actually fairly interesting is the lore. I think there's concepts of good lore, but is there actual good lore? Because they really just are like, oh yeah, here's this, and oh yeah, you're never gonna see that again. Like, for example, they show this in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler, but they show the Headless Horseman, which was honestly pretty cool. It was pretty cool because we don't have a lot of movies nowadays that have shown like the Headless Horseman or anything, but they show him for 10 seconds. We never see him again. And there's this group of people that protect the mythological world for all the mythological creatures. So there is a world where these don't exist, but in the mythological world, they do exist. And honestly, or not honestly, but when I was watching it, I was making a ton of connections to Marvel. They were basically stealing like ideas from Marvel. Like, the mythological world is basically Wakanda. The way that there's the fabric of reality is like, it's hidden like beyond the view of, anyone. It's exactly what Wakanda was like, because Wakanda is a world on Earth, but is protected from society. And that's exactly what the mythological world was. It was so blatantly obvious that they stole the ideas from Marvel. It was really annoying. Also, Cal's character, he can shrink to like less than half of his size to beat people up and, do a bunch of Ant-Man stuff. It was just so obvious that they were taking ideas from Marvel. And it was really, really, really annoying. But back on the mythological stuff, because that's cool. That is awesome. That reminded me of like Rise of the Guardians, in which we got like every main holiday's like mascot. So you got the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, Santa, Sandman. It's like you had all of those characters, and they mentioned the fact that they have this mythological world that holds all of those people, and they don't even show us like any of them. They showed us Krampus or Krampus and the Headless Horseman. What? Why would you not go off of that? That would have been way more of an interesting movie. Like, imagine this movie was about how Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans went on a journey through the mythological world to gather up mythological beings like the Tooth Fairy or the Easter Bunny or Krampus, which they do kind of team up with Krampus at the end of this movie. Spoiler alert, but I don't really care. And the Headless Horseman. What if they teamed up with them in a Marvel kind of way, but it still would have been way more interesting to find Santa? That would have been so much more interesting, and they butchered the fact that they had this great idea about the mythological world where they protect the mythological beings, and it was so frustrating because I was just like, that is such a good idea. And the character designs looked pretty good. Like the Headless Horseman was pretty scary and awesome looking. Krampus, I think I'm like distracted by the 2015 Krampus movie, in which that design is just perfection. And this one's more humanoid and talks and, walks and just is like super muscular. And I think it looked a little too like cheesy. But I think the Krampus part was, although very, very long, in which they're doing like a slapping competition to escape hell. Guys, talking about this movie is honestly so boring. But I'm trying to make it a little bit interesting by giving this movie the benefit of the doubt and saying that it did have good ideas, it had concepts of good lore, but did it actually take those ideas and do something worth watching? I recently made a video talking about like the 10 biggest issues with Joker 2 and why it failed, and one of them was talking about the budget. A bigger budget doesn't mean that it's going to be a better movie. They could have made something with Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans. They could have made a Christmas movie about, saving Santa Claus for $50 million, and it would have probably would have been more of a fine watching experience, even if it had the same exact story, just dimmed down a little bit on like the CGI, the set designs, and even the set designs in this movie were weak. It felt like I was on a set. Nothing felt like the inside of the North Pole, like where Santa Claus is like that. Although looked more Christmas-esque, did not match what it looked like on the outside. They were trying way too hard to make this like edgy and artsy, and trying to make the idea and the story of Santa Claus a lot more interesting, and they failed so miserably, despite how many ideas that they came up with to make this movie different. Little complaints that I'm not going to get too much into, but acting is poor. I think Chris Evans and Dwayne Johnson just do not click on screen. I think the characters are horrible. The villain is without a doubt one of the worst villains that I've seen in recent years, and the ending, the third act, is without question one of the most poor endings that probably the worst ending that I've seen this year, but also just what a punch in the face. The ending of this movie is basically showing J.K. Simmons Santa like going down chimneys in this like in a very similar way to what Arthur Christmas does. If any of you have seen that movie, which is a really good movie. It's also a movie that does that futuristic kind of Santa stuff in which times are changing and whatnot, but it's still better than this garbage. But this one is like a really heavily CGI'd J.K. Simmons as Santa, jumping, leaping across houses, showing how fast he actually goes down these chimneys, and sprinkles little presents into the stockings, and then they grow to full size, or sprinkling the presents on the ground and they grow into normal size presents. And it's just like, it's so it was just so unfortunate how boring this movie was. I don't ever sleep during a movie. And despite that, I saw this movie like at 10 o'clock at night, and it was a 2-hour movie, so I was there until midnight. I never fall asleep during movies. I typically stay up the entire time, but this one had me so close. And it's so unfortunate because I love Christmas movies. I think even if a Christmas movie is bad, I can still enjoy it because it has those Christmas elements that, is good to cozy up to and have hot cocoa with. But this one, unfortunately, is just so bad at both things, being a movie and being a Christmas movie. I can just tell that what it was like going on behind the scenes was just like the writer and director, Dwayne Johnson. He had a lot of say in this movie because of his new film company. And also Dwayne Johnson made a really stupid comment. I know it's probably just like rage bait, or he's very optimistic about his movies, but he said how in an interview for Red One, he talked about how he watched Oppenheimer in IMAX, and that was what inspired him to make sure that Red One was shot in the same way on IMAX and whatnot. And he said, if Oppenheimer looked like this great in IMAX, just imagine Red One in IMAX. It's game over. It's mind-boggling. Like Dwayne Johnson just has he has like the hierarchy of power. Dwayne Johnson just, I don't know. He hypes up his movies way too much, and most of his movies are within this realm of like $250 million in budget, and most of them are just garbage. And it's unfortunate because I like Dwayne Johnson. I'm very excited for his new A24 film, where it actually looks like he's gonna act and not just be himself. So I'm excited for that. But Red One is one of the worst movies of the year. It's a very disappointing Christmas movie. I can't even say go see it because it's just a Christmas movie, because it's not joyful. It's just a mess. But anyways, that'll be my review for Red One. Sorry if I went off on a tangent a little bit on just how poor and bad this movie was, but I just really wanted to get my thoughts out about it because, oh my gosh, I wanted to at least enjoy this movie a little bit, but there was nothing to satisfy my wanting of a Christmas movie and just for a nice night out. But anyways, thank you so much for sticking around to the end of this video. I appreciate every single one of you. And remember that if you have not liked and subscribed yet, make sure to do so if you like these kind of videos. But that'll be it. I'll see you in the next one. I appreciate every single one of you. But remember, your movie moment is right around the corner. See you in the next video.